What is up, and welcome to another episode of the Progress Podcast. I'm delighted that you're joining us here today on the podcast all about helping young people to discover that you do have a purpose and progress is possible for you in your life. Today, I'm super stoked about our guest, Abigail Ferrell. She is the author of the book, Happier Us, the timeless and proven way to greater peace and joy for you and those you love. Abigail, I've seen all of your posts about this book. I'm super intrigued by the idea of connectedness and how vital it is for our mental health, our spiritual well-being, finding fulfillment and joy in our lives. So I'd love if you could just share a little bit about the journey, how this started, and what this book has taught you.
Totally. And happy to be here. Thanks for having me, Noah. So ever since growing up, I always just felt like this deep part within me to just help people feel greater joy. It's sad to see looking around the world and just seeing that people haven't found that and they don't know where to find that. And I remember someone asking me, I was going to school at BYU, Hawaii, and someone asked me, what do you want to do? And I just said, I want to bring greater joy to people. And it just hit me so hard. I just started crying. And so I kind of went on this own journey and quest to figure out how to do that. And I came across this study from Harvard. I wish the whole world knew about this study because I don't think it's well known enough, but it's the longest study about human happiness. And so they started with 700 males and it's gone down to their posterity. They're looking what makes the happiest people the happiest. And it's not the money, it's not fame, it's not where you live, it's not your job. What they've consistently found is that the happiest people had good relationships. And I think it's kind of lost today that lots of people are trying to chase joy and happiness from the materialistic things. And I think people understand that that's not what brings joy, but they don't understand it's good relationships that bring joy. And I think there's 3 pillars of that, 3 good relationships: relationship with self, others, and the higher power. And so that's kind of the whole basis of the book, is exploring between all types of religions, psychology, neuroscience, how the best practices to build those good relationships.
Wow. Okay. Everybody who just heard what I just heard, you're probably feeling the same way as me. Gail, I can already tell this is going to be a fantastic conversation.
I'm excited.
There's a lot that I want to chat about and unpack from what you just shared right there.
Mm-hmm.
First thing that jumps out to me is you come from a unique perspective where kids everywhere are used to being asked the question of what do you want to do? And all of a sudden we start to label ourselves and identify ourselves with some kind of job title. Mm-hmm. And you instead identified yourself with bringing the feeling of joy. Mm-hmm. I love that. I know both of us have some interest in business and entrepreneurship as well. Totally. And it's the reality that people don't ever buy things. People only invest in feelings. Mm-hmm. Feelings are what it's all about. I think that's incredible. Also, the misconception that somehow temporary things, money, wealth, status is somehow going to bring us happiness. I think we all know on paper that's not the case, but yet day to day, sometimes our behavior doesn't align with the reality that we know. The relationships are what actually matter. Over the course of your research, and I know you've poured hours and hours into learning so you could write this book. Mm-hmm. What are some habits that changed in your life to center it more around the findings of what actually brings joy?
Totally. So I feel that the way I spend my time has totally changed ever since writing and researching. I heard this phrase that the author is the biggest learner of their book. And yeah, I've been involved in entrepreneurship. And so always, not that I was wanting to build these things. I feel like I had good intentions, good goals, but I was kind of sidetracked. And now my whole purpose of every moment is to help build good relationships with people. Whether that's myself, whether that's with the people around me, or whether that's with God. And if it's not going to build a good relationship with someone, I'm going to do it. or I'm going to at least try not to do it. I'm human, so I'm not perfect at that. But that's like the focus. Why I'm doing things is I have the goal in mind that what I'm doing right now is going to help me build a better relationship with either myself, someone else, or with God.
Yeah. When you say that like that, you make it sound easy. Maybe it is for you at this point. But in some ways, I feel like our world is designed for disconnection. I mean, think about just some of the obstacles of how busy we are these days.
Totally.
The incessant distractions from social media and our phones and technology all the time. How do you overcome those obstacles to still form valuable relationships?
Yeah. Something that I try to do every morning, and I would highly encourage anyone, is to read the Word of God or scriptures. There's been many studies done that they've found like people who are invested in their faith tend to be happier. So that's the first thing. If you are religious, continue to build that faith in God or whatever higher power you believe in. If you aren't religious, coming from a standpoint that I just want someone to find greater joy, I encourage you to find that purpose. Find whatever faith feels and resonates with you. And many faiths have different books of scripture. And so each morning I'll read from that book of scripture. And I've found that not only does it help me, my relationship with a higher power, but as I've been studying, in neuroscience, there's this phrase called like, the more that we read something, the more we'll believe it, whether it's true or not. And the more we believe something, the more we'll like act according to that, which is scary. Politicians use this a lot.
Exactly. Yeah.
Even Hitler, I quote this in my book, even Hitler, he said, if you tell a big enough lie enough, people will believe it, which is like sickening to me. And so how important it is that we read truth. And scriptures are, we believe, are truth from a higher power. So if we read it more, we'll believe truth and then we'll act in accordance of that. And I think scriptures are just like, a simple way to put it is the do's and don'ts of building good relationships. And so if we read it more, we'll believe it more, and then we'll start to act according to that. And so I think that if I could encourage anyone that would change their view of the world and their relationships, read from scriptures every day, because you'll start to believe them more, and then you'll start to act according to that.
I love that. That's very powerful. In my work, I work for suicide prevention nonprofit Hope for Utah. And all the time I'm meeting with students, and we have a particular lesson in the curriculum all about self-care. And I love sharing that lesson, especially with young people, so they can develop those skills. It's especially important for leaders to have good self-care, because we're the ones that take care of everybody else.
Totally.
We have that opportunity and responsibility. And as part of the curriculum, it talks about spiritual habits of self-care. We talk about the physical, the mental, the social, and then also the spiritual. And it's kind of interesting because we're a nonprofit, we're nonpartisan, non-religious organization. And so we don't cite any particular religion, but to your point, the research does show that folks who believe in a higher power are more likely to be mentally healthy. And they're also more likely to find meaningful connection in community, find people who can be supportive to them when difficult times come. And I love also what you said about how the foundations of many, many different faiths is really just teaching you how to treat other people. I mean, take Christianity, the 2 great commandments is to love God and then love your neighbor as yourself. And then all the commandments are, I guess, added guide rails to make sure you're doing that correctly. Exactly. Many other religions are the same, teaching us how to be good neighbors. So I love that you point that out. You also mentioned talking about another relationship that I feel like is just really essential in our lives, and probably one that's neglected a lot these days, the relationship with self. What are some ways that you've found to invest in that relationship?
Affirmations. So a common basis too between all religions. So in Happier Us, I talk about Buddhism, Sikhism, Hinduism, all different Christianity, all these different religions. And a common theme between all of them is that they believe that we all have a divine worth. Like we are divine beings. And affirmations, so basically is affirming something. And affirmations can be either positive or negative. Lots of times people will just naturally think of negative affirmations through their head, be like, oh, I'm not worth it. I'm not enough. Those are negative affirmations. Positive affirmations, though, are affirmations that align with who we are. And you can feel it when I'll invite anyone to look in the mirror and say, I am enough. I'm worth it. And I am amazing. And when you hear those compliments, when you say them to yourself, like you feel good, right? Mm-hmm. It's because it's true. I believe that joy, that smile when you get a compliment is the higher power witnessing to you that it's true. But it's the opposite for negative affirmations. When someone says like something bad about you or you're beating up on yourself, you don't feel good. Again, I think it's the higher power. He can't testify that that's true because it's not. We're not worthless. We're not enough. Like we are divine, incredible beings. And so going back to the principle before, the more we tell ourselves something, the more we'll believe it. Mm-hmm. And then the self-fulfilling prophecy, the more we believe something, we'll start to act in according to that. So affirmations, think of a little girl that like when she's 5 years old, is telling herself every day, I'm amazing. I'm loved. I have a divine purpose. Mm-hmm. And then go to like when she's 20 years old, she's like rock solid. She knows, and she's going to be doing great things. But if they're not being told those things, they don't know. It's hard to believe in something that you're not telling yourself. You're not going to believe something that you don't want to believe. And so you got to like make sure, do the best that you can to help instill into people's minds their divine worth and into yourself. And so every morning I'll look in the mirror, I have my own affirmations, and I invite anyone else to have their own affirmations, but to help them know who they are. And I believe everyone, if you're listening to this, I know you have a divine purpose of being here.
So powerful. Thank you for sharing that. You made me think my summer job, I worked as a zipline guide up in Deer Creek.
Really cool.
And I remember this like girls camp group came in and they were doing a ropes course with, walking between planks and different stuff. Mm-hmm. And oh my gosh, it was the sweetest thing because this little girl came in and we got her all harnessed up, had the helmet on, the gloves on, and she goes up on this ropes course and it's wobbly. It's pretty difficult stuff, to be totally honest with you. And she's like trying to make her way across this gap from one plank to another. And she looks down at her mom. She's gripping as tight as she can, both hands. And she says, I am brave.
Nice.
And I pulled out my phone and snapped a picture right at that moment because it was just touching to me. It was moving. That her belief in herself was able to help her power through that experience. You did an experiment actually with rice to kind of prove this principle. Would you share more about that with us?
Totally. Happy to. So this kind of sparked the initial wanting to write Happier Us. So we were in Hawaii and every Sunday we'll do this gathering and we'll talk about the scriptures. We do a Come Follow Me gathering. And we were reading in Proverbs and it talked about the power of our words. And it says, kind words are like honeycomb, sweet to the soul and health to the bones. And it had me, so I'm a twin. And when she was younger, she did this science experiment with rice in 4th grade, where she had one jar that we talked nice to, one jar of rice that we talked negatively to. And they were in 2 rooms. And it was so cool to see the contrast between how those rice ended up at the end of the experiment. And the kind word rice was good. And then the hate rice was gross. And so in this gathering, I'm like, okay, let's do this again. It really hit me when we did it as kids. And I just wanted to show all the people that we were with, like, words are so powerful.
Yeah.
So we got 3 jars of rice, like same batch of rice, put in the same jars. And then we put them on a shelf, the same shelf. One jar was labeled I love you jar. One jar was I hate you jar. And then one wasn't labeled. So it was the neglected jar. And that kind of indicates what type of message we shared to those jars every day. So the I love you jar of rice, we would say, I love you. You're amazing. You're kind. You're awesome.
Affirmations, the type of things you want to
Exactly.
feed.
We give positive affirmations to the I love you jar, and then negative affirmations to the I hate you jar. And then the neglected jar, we just left alone. Even after 4 days, the I hate you jar started growing black mold at the bottom. And the neglected jar started growing pink mold. The I love you jar is fine. Fast forward a few weeks, and we had this gathering at our house every week. So we'd pass around the jars every week, and people would come over during the week, look at them. Like, there's hundreds of people that saw this happen.
Yeah.
And fast forward to a month, the I hate you jar was like unrecognizable. It was just filled with black mold. The neglected jar was very fermented. There's pink mold, yellowish. Mm-hmm. And the I love you jar, no mold.
That's crazy.
Literally no mold. None of us can deny that. Like, we saw it with our own eyes. No, none of us did anything to like mess up with the experiment. Like, we literally, all we did was just speak to those jars. And there's 3 main lessons I got from this. First, our words can bring life to people. We literally can bring encouragement and upliftment to people by how we speak. Second, our words can be so damaging if they're hateful. Like, we see IKEA did another experiment where they got 2 plants and put it in a school, and one plant was being listening to a recording of bullying words. Mm-hmm. Well, the other plant was listening to encouraging compliments. Yeah. Over 2 weeks, the plant that was given like bullying messages was all wilted, and the kind plant was thriving.
Wow.
And so really how we speak to people is so important, and it's so powerful. And I really just want people to use our words for good. But there's also one thing that was really impactful to me, was the neglected jar. And I noticed this is so strongly correlated to loneliness. Not only is speaking bad to people bad and harmful, but ignoring them is too.
Yeah.
And there's this study done that loneliness is as damaging as smoking 15 packs of cigarettes a day.
Yeah.
Which you hear that, it's like, what? But it's true. And so from that experiment, I hope and I pray to share the message, like, use our words to uplift people. And if you know someone's lonely, reach out, because it's so deadly. It really is. And it literally just changed how I go about every conversation. I want to just make sure people know that they matter and they feel loved.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So powerful. Yeah. I mean, as you're sharing that, I'm thinking about people in my life who almost represent the different jars of rice. You can see it. It's not quite as evident because they don't literally grow mold, most of them that I know. But you can really see the effects that words have, even moment to moment, conversation to conversation. When certain individuals enter a room, they already bring with them, a vibration, a feeling, an aura, whatever you want to call it, that has power. I was at a gathering recently. We've had some crazy events happen here in Utah and across the whole nation, actually. Just things in the news that are worrying and that can cause some anxiety and might even kind of foster some of these feelings of loneliness. I was at a drum circle. For those that might not be as familiar, I wasn't either. A drum circle, you kind of follow rhythms together, and it's really interesting, the science behind it. When you do that, your brain waves actually align at the same frequency as well. When you drum together at the same rhythm. And this was just shortly after some of these crazy things were going on in the news. And it was interesting. The instructor talked about this same concept of just how healing connection can be. And some of the verbiage that she used was a little bit foreign to me, talking about, vibrations sent out into the universe, into the atmosphere. But it's reality. Mm-hmm. It's reality. When we just do things together side by side, it has an impact not only on us, but on the whole world around us. I mean, everybody's maybe heard the cliche quote about to heal the world, heal yourself. Mm. But I think it's totally true. I think all of us know at the same time that relationships can be messy. And we've talked about relationship with God, relationship with self. Those can be messy, but especially once you get other people involved, Totally. It can be complicated. It can be hard.
Totally.
What are some things that you'd share with us about relationships with others?
Totally. Going back to, there was one point that I really want to emphasize that the rice experiment. Whatever jar of rice that you're creating in someone else is the same jar that you're creating in yourself. And so I study a lot about peacemaking. And lots of times when we get in these conflicts, first, lots of people think that the word conflict is inherently bad. It's not. Conflict can be either constructive or destructive. Think of conflict in nature between summer and winter. Creates a beautiful fall. Yeah. But it's when conflict, when you aren't when you're not acting out of pure love, that's where it gets really destructive. And so first, understanding that conflict is okay. Having differences of opinion is great. It gets us to new places, new ideas. We learn more. But having mutual understanding of just like, we can have our own opinions and just being like having love towards the individual. And so I just came from this workshop, and there's this analogy of people in conflict, or you can be like destructive conflict, and their backs turned to each other and they're punching their elbows to each other. And they keep doing it back and forth because they're like, I'm not going to stop until they stop. But that's like, who's going to stop, right?
Sure.
And lots of times we find ourselves in that position of like, okay, I'll compromise if they compromise first. But we can't, if we all are going to think that, nothing's going to happen. And the first thing that we need to do is to turn towards them and to love them and to see them, understand where they're coming from. And it's a lot easier said than done, for sure. But the whole like purpose of peace building is to love. Peace building, literally what I think the definition is to build stronger relationships. How we build those relationships is love. And love is not easy, but it's so worth it.
Absolutely. I think that's an effective visual that many of us can relate to, kind of being at a stalemate in our relationships where there's friction or misunderstanding or things just seem to be continuing in a negative pattern. I wonder if there's a particular relationship, of course, keeping confidentiality, keep sharing only what you're comfortable with, a particular relationship in your life that has been a struggle for you, but through the findings of this book was able to improve.
I would just say my family in general. Mm-hmm. Like, we're very close, but again, I would prioritize other things instead of them. And when I really just came to research and come to understand the importance of relationships, like, I just want to give the world to my family, because I know that's what this life's about. That's what brings the greatest joy. That's what brings the greatest satisfaction, is building those good relationships. And so, like, and I'm not perfect at it at all. I wish I had better relationships with my family and with others. Always.
Good.
I'm never settled.
That makes me feel better.
Yeah. But just like, if someone needs help with something, instead of thinking about, I could do this, I was wanting to do this, like understanding, okay, this is going to help build a good relationship. Like, I'm going to do it. But there's also boundaries. You got to know like where your boundaries are too. There's no like set answer of like, this will be the answer in every equation to relationships. That's kind of the complicated thing with peace building. We want it like math or science. Like if you do this, this will happen. Relationship building isn't transactional. It can't be. If it was transactional, we would see a lot of like bad things happen. Like we are. Lots of people think it's transactional. Relationship building has to be giving love with no limits, no restraints. And that doesn't mean that you are giving more of yourself than you can to people where you're not taking care of yourself. Like once you understand that taking care of yourself will help you take care of others more. And same with the higher power. Once you strengthen that relationship, it will help you strengthen others. Like there's no one right answer of how to do it. Once you figure out though, there's no one like single answer. Just make sure you don't hold back love and just focus on building those relationships.
Yeah. I love that. I love the idea of kind of embracing the messy almost. I think that a boundaryless relationship is a recipe for resentment. Mm-hmm. And it's true what you said, like every person is different. Every individual relationship is going to have different needs and find a different way to connect with that individual. A friend of mine recently gave a talk on this topic of relationships, building good relationships. And he kind of presented this principle that good relationships, friendships become meaningful the moment they become inconvenient. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of us have relationships of convenience in our life where maybe they're just our work friend. We joke around together, things happen. But relationships become strong when actually they demand something of you. Of course, not something to cross your boundaries, but when you show up for that person in a difficult moment, when you see them at their worst, at their lowest, they're vulnerable with you and you still choose to love them. Those are the moments that build and forge strong friendship. From my perspective, I heard the other day also this idea of when you buy a pot from Walmart, a piece of pottery, it's perfect. With the technology we have today, it's really easy to create something that is technically perfect. But when you buy a pot from Walmart, how much do you pay for it? $10, $15? I don't know. I'm not super into plants. I wish I was. Beautiful plants in our background right here. But folks will pay exorbitant amounts, like way more than that, for pottery that is made by hand. And if you compare them, objectively speaking, one to the other, one is perfect and one is not. It's going to naturally have flaws just because of the process that it went through to be created. But at the same time, that process is beautiful. The flaws become meaningful and beautiful because somebody put their time with their own two hands into creating that for you. And I think relationships are much the same way. If a relationship is perfect, it's probably very new or not very deep because relationships always get messy in my experience. Some of my strongest relationships have become the strongest because they were hard. And so I think that's a valuable principle you've shared with us. I wonder, you've shared some about a friend of yours named Garrett in the past. Do you want to tell us about your relationship with Garrett and some of the things you've learned from him?
Totally. So going to school at BYU Hawaii, I was there for a couple years, and my second semester there, I met Garrett, and everyone knew Garrett. He was like so fun, so outgoing, just would do anything and everything. Like he didn't care what other people thought of him, but he was so kind. And he was one of the best examples of building those good relationships. So Garrett, he had an accident, a swimming accident, and he passed away about a year ago. And there came this mantra, live like Garrett. And for me, what that means to me, well, there was all these comments on like our school post of him, of like memories of Garrett. And you read through that and it just brings you to tears. And I knew he was amazing, but after reading everyone, like, I was like, I thought Garrett, I knew he did that to others, but I didn't know he did it for everyone.
Yeah.
And so I remember I needed an oil change. She's like, okay, I'm going to go help my friend with her oil change. Like, come over and I'll teach you and we'll do it at the same time. Or like, there was one of these comments that one time Garrett figured out that his friend really liked apples. And so every time he saw her, he'd give her an apple.
Wow.
Or there were so many comments of like, Garrett, I was walking to school and he picked me up and drove me to school. He was always worshiping at the temple. That's what I believe. My faith, we go to this place called the temple. It's a house of worship. He always goes there and serves.
Yeah.
And somehow he managed to do like everything and everything. I don't know how he did it. But for me, living like Garrett is just going out of your way and helping people and serving them. And every person I know felt so much love around him. Like they felt valued. They felt enough. Just like all those affirmations. They felt more of who they really are by someone who was really showing care to them. And so now I have a bracelet that says LLG, live like Garrett.
Yeah.
And I'll put it in my car. And so I'll try and pick people up if I see they're like going to school and they need a ride. That's like a big thing for me of living like Garrett is because I've had no car a few times and I know what it's like to walk and I wish I had a car to go places. And so if I see someone that looks like they're going to school or whatever, I'll ask, like, hey, you need a ride? But he was so kind, so Christ-like, and always serving others. And every time we serve, it's building those relationships, especially when it's out of our way.
Yeah. Oh, what a wonderful example. A wonderful way to honor him and his legacy as well by passing on those acts of service. I think many of us can think of somebody in our life who just prioritizes relationships. They live people first and everything else second. And I think that's a beautiful, beautiful way to live. It reminds me of a Maori proverb that my aunt shared with me while I was serving a mission for my church. And I don't know it in Maori, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately for some of us. I'd probably slaughter it. But if I remember correctly, it says, do you want to know what is the most important thing? It is people. It is people. It is people. And that really is the truth. So thank you very much, Gail, for coming on and sharing with us so much value about our purpose, our purpose together. It's a shared purpose. It's not something that exists in a vacuum. And about our potential for progress. That no matter where we're at in our relationships right now, our relationship with God or higher power, with self or with others, you can always grow. Things can always change, and it can start today. You can start with the words that you use. So I hope everybody after this is inspired. You can purchase Abigail Ferrell's book, Happier Us, on Amazon and read it there. And also, I'm sure you've noticed, this is a way, way nicer studio than you typically see us coming from. And so we'd love to shout out Beehive Broadcasts. If you're looking for a place to record podcasts or other events, feel free to reach out to them on Instagram. Really is fantastic, fantastic studio setup. Great to work with. As we're winding down here, Abigail, I'd love to hear from you the message that you would share with our listeners and also maybe with even your younger self. Before writing this book, maybe the little girl version of you who just knew that what she wanted to give to the world was joy. What would you share with her in everything you've learned about how that's accomplished?
I love the question of what you'd say to your younger self. I would say you're enough. And we really are enough. And to be like, we're so hard on ourselves. And it ruins our relationship with ourselves. But just like being okay with where we're at right now and just understanding we're doing our best. And the other thing is, you mentioned this earlier, Noah, was when someone came to Jesus, was like, what's the greatest commandment? And for me, as a Christian, I believe that commandments are there to bring us greater joy. God, he knows all. He wants us to be the happiest the version of ourselves that we can be. And so he tells us, he's like, okay, Do this, and this will help you find greater joy. He's given us commandments to guide us to greater joy. And so this person comes to Jesus and asks, what's the greatest commandment? And I like to rephrase that. What's the thing, like the most important thing I can do to find the greatest joy?
Yeah.
And Jesus says, love God. Love your neighbor. Loving people is building good relationships. It's literally right in front of us of how to find that joy is building good relationship with God, with others, and yourself. And be patient as you do the things, small things every day to consistently build those.
Wow. What a powerful place to end. Thank you very much. Sincerely, Gail, for joining us. This has been a delightful conversation. I'm excited to read the book and learn even more from it. And learn, I feel like one of the things I'm most excited about in this book is it's something I'll put into practice and learn as I apply what's going on. And thank you very much for following along with us today on another episode of the Progress Podcast.